building entrepreneurial companies is essentially building purposeful communities.
Somehow the combination of the limited resources and the realities of getting things done against the press of time and the seasons gives people a practical orientation and a physical intuition.
And I think that is born and bred in Maine and part of our success.
The story of Maine is at once alike and unlike the story of America. The state's rural character forces Mainers to be self-reliant and resourceful. It's perhaps also why Maine has such a unique history of innovation and entrepreneurship, and one that continues to define the state today.
You look at the companies that are big today, they started somewhere, right? They started as smaller companies with, people with a good idea.
Entrepreneurship is the very adventurous process of conceiving of and building new enterprises to do something worthy in the world. And innovation is a key part of that. Innovation is taking great ideas and putting them to work.
Maine has a long and storied history of nurturing innovation and fanning the flames of entrepreneurship. From the first transatlantic TV signal to sustainable fishing to Chester Greenwood's earmuffs, the thread that unifies Maine inventors and entrepreneurs is a sense of Yankee ingenuity. The idea that know-how, self-reliance, and individual enterprise can overcome any practical challenge. Ben Polito, co-founder of Pica Energy, perfectly encapsulates that spirit.
Being an entrepreneur in Maine is about working in a great supportive community with limited resources to accomplish real things.
Ben grew up on Five Islands, a small island village off the coast of Maine. He spent his formative years literally off the grid, growing up without many modern conveniences like electricity. It encouraged a kind of DIY attitude that sustains him even to this day.
I grew up on a farm, and I was a handy kid, I think, by nature, so I got to tinkering on things, and of course, given that we didn't have electricity, one of the things that I tried to do was build wind turbines to make some electricity.
That spirit of curiosity and self-dependence eventually landed Ben at MIT, where he went on to become an engineer at companies as far away as California and Arizona, before eventually returning to Maine to start his own company targeting solar energy and, not surprisingly, wind turbines. With the help of organizations like MTI, that company became Pica Energy, which creates energy storage systems to integrate clean energy into the grid and help power homes.
I came to entrepreneurship pretty late and by a side door, and eventually realized that the way I could contribute the most was by starting a company together with my co-founder Joshua.
Pica Energy began in 2013 out of Ben's basement, but it grew rapidly thanks in no small part to Maine's unique startup community that helps foster new businesses. Pica now employs over 40 workers and was recently acquired by the energy group Generac. Yet in a very real sense, it owes most of its success to an Islander kid who never saw problems, only opportunities.
Yankee ingenuity comes naturally to people who grow up in out-of-the-way places with limited financial resources and want to get things done. And that's certainly inspired our work at Pica.
Ben's story is not unlike countless other stories of entrepreneurship throughout Maine's history. Innovators like Margaret Knight, a prolific inventor who became the most famous female inventor of the 19th century. Or Hiram Maxim, a farm boy from rural Maine who created the world's first portable automatic gun. Or even Captain Hanson Gregory, the sailor who saw a need at the breakfast table and invented the modern donut, with apologies to Massachusetts. So what is it about Maine that has historically made it such a fertile bed of innovation?
Maine's tradition of industry is very natural resource oriented, and the communities that made a living in those worlds needed to collaborate with each other. There is some interesting connections between traditional Maine industries and a modern, bigger enterprise global science-based enterprises that we think of as the drivers of entrepreneurship in today's world.
David Shaw is one of the most powerful forces in innovation and entrepreneurship in Maine today. He helped found 14 businesses and has had a hand in roughly 20% of Maine's publicly traded companies. His passions range from biotech and the sciences to film, music, sustainability, and more.
A message I often have for entrepreneurs is remember that we live in a world of exponential change, not linear change. We live in a global and not local world, and always ask yourself what great looks like, and remember that good is the enemy of great.
It's this desire to build something great and put it to work that casts Shaw in a similar mold with many of his Maine-born entrepreneurial antecedents.
Industries that have traditionally been entrepreneurial in Maine, of course, include hospitality, forestry, fishing, agriculture. These are very entrepreneurial lifestyle businesses where those entrepreneurs get up every morning and think about what they need to do to create value. And so those of us who are entrepreneurs in more of a tech world have a lot of kinship with that attitude, which is an attitude of self-determination.
Despite his many successes, Shaw is still vested in the world of entrepreneurship in Maine. He currently sits on the board of Jackson Labs and is managing partner for the Blackpoint Group.
I continue to be very motivated by tackling big challenges in the world with great teams. And it's taken me into some really interesting directions.
It's this commitment to tackling big challenges with even bigger ideas that binds together the story of Maine's past and present entrepreneurs. Many of Maine's greatest entrepreneurs sprang from traditional industries, and those traditional industries have a way of continuing to influence the modern Maine entrepreneur.
When you think about Bates Mill and all of the textile work they did, all of that had gone overseas. So our goal was to create a company and bring back that craftsmanship that lies rich in our history in Maine.
Beth Sisler is the President and Chief Sustainability Officer at Seabags, a retail apparel business that is helping to revive Maine's once thriving cut and sew industry.
When people think of startup tote bag business, they don't necessarily think of innovation, and we've been very, very innovative in how we use technology. Everything from how we built our website to how we do our manufacturing.
Over the past 2 decades, Seabags has become one of the state's most distinctive brands, earning a place alongside such iconic brands as LL Bean and Stonewall Kitchen.
Seabags started as a hobby business by Hannah Kubiak. Hannah and I talked about how we could scale the business, and so we did. We built a website, and the press was very, very good to us, and our story got out and got broad.
Beth's business background made her a natural fit with the fledgling Seabags brand. Today, Seabags employs over 140 people. It has retail locations up and down the East Coast, with its product sold all around the world.
Well, I am grateful to be part of this personally, that this is not about me. You know, I have great partners and we have great, amazing employees. And that's just something I take with me all the time. That is what I'm the most proud of, that we have, together, collectively created this company that people will want to work for years to come, and hopefully, as long as there's sales and sailors, there will be Seabags.
State of Maine, I think it's fair to say, punches above its weight in terms of accomplishment per dollar invested.
So the more audacious the goal, the more audacious the venture, the more interesting the people often.
Maine in general has a great entrepreneurial spirit. There are so few degrees of separation between anybody in Maine. So if you want to learn something, it's very easy to reach out to someone and get the right resources.
In Maine, capital resources are somewhat limited, but we make up for that with a really strong community of entrepreneurs, of mentors, of private and quasi-public organizations.
We have great organizations like MTI or the International Trade Center. If somebody wants to start a business here, we make it relatively easy to do so.
It's this sense of community and camaraderie which continues to inspire entrepreneurs today. It's also why business leaders like Ben Polito, Beth Sisler, and David Shaw know innovation and entrepreneurship will continue to thrive and grow in the coming decades.
I think that there's a common element between today's entrepreneurship and that historic entrepreneurship in Maine. That sense of belonging to a tribe, you share their values and their sense of fulfillment about doing something great, that's an essential ingredient to entrepreneurial success.
There is a spirit here of creativity and entrepreneurialism. For people that thrive on change and growth, this is a great environment. And that's what makes Maine really, really unique.